Welcome to Literary AF Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Literary AF Podcast. We're doing part 2 of our Austen live in Austin, Texas. Same goof as last episode. We're keeping it rolling. My name's Sheldon.
I'm Danny.
And we're here to talk to you about Persuasion by Jane Austen.
Yep.
So last week we did a plot rundown.
Yeah.
I was going to say a brief plot rundown, but it was the entire episode.
It was a whole episode. Hopefully you've read the book or listened to the book.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Consumed it in some form.
If you forgot what we talked about last week, or if you, for some reason, you decide to start with episode 32, and this is your very first episode, welcome. But just to do a very brief plot rundown, there's this lady named Anne Elliot. Her family is
very rich.
They were rich, and then they blew a whole bunch of money, and then they had to give up their estate.
Yep.
Some other people moved in, and the guy happened to be her former fiance, who she broke up with because she was persuaded not to marry him because he wouldn't make any money.
Yep.
But then he became rich.
Yep.
So he's kind of flirting with other people. She doesn't know if she still likes him, but she does kind of like him. A whole bunch of stuff happens, and then at the end they end up getting back together.
Very good.
That's a very short plot summary, skipping over most of the important plot.
Yeah, all of the book.
Okay, well what should we talk about first?
I guess let's talk about, well, you only 3-star liked this book.
Oh, okay, so the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, when I read a Jane Austen book, there's always a certain moment of revelation in the book where it's like a big event will happen and then things will change, and that's always the moment that really hooks me in an Austen book.
Right.
Pride and Prejudice has the letter from Darcy,
right,
where Elizabeth realizes that he's not as stuck up as she thought he was, and that a lot of stuff that she thought was true is actually wrong, and that Darcy had been doing stuff behind the scenes. And it totally changes the feeling of the book, and that's that moment hooked me hard.
Right.
Sensibility, I think it's the one girl gets sick, right?
That's the end of the book. Marianne gets sick.
What happens 2/3 of the way through? Isn't there a big event? They find out their cousins were lying or something?
Well, there's Eleanor finds out that Edward was engaged to Mrs. Steele.
Oh, that's right.
And she's been crushing on him for the last year, and he seemed pretty into it. And then it comes out that he was engaged to Mrs. Steele.
That's right. So there's that big reveal that the guy she liked was actually kind of a D-bag who's engaged to somebody else.
Kinda, yeah.
And then Northanger Abbey has a moment like that where, because the main girl in Northanger Abbey, she's obsessed with Gothic novels, yeah. And she thinks that this Northanger Abbey that she's staying with the guy she likes is also haunted, and that the husband or the father is doing these evil things.
Right. And
she's imagined this whole drama, and then it kind of comes crashing down around her when the guy she likes confronts her about it, and how dare you think that my father murdered my dead mother, and it's kind of this big moment where everything that she thought was real is thrown in her face, and she realizes her mistakes. And it's those moments of revelation where everything turns. Austen's really good at that.
Right.
But I feel Persuasion doesn't really have a moment like that.
I guess not so much.
There's kind of a moment where you think Wentworth is gonna get engaged to Musgrove, to Louisa or whatever.
Yeah.
But then Louisa gets engaged to the other guy instead.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a moment like that, but it's not it's not as earth-shattering as it is in some of the other books.
Right.
So when I read through Persuasion, it just kind of there was no big twist that got me intrigued.
Right.
So it just kind of plays out the way I sort of expected it would.
Sure.
And I mean, that's not terrible, but it's not I don't know. It didn't reel me in the way some of her other books have.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, this one's not quite as funny as some of Austen's other works are.
No.
And the humor is a big thing for me, especially in books like this, but like I don't think it's a bad book. I would never say that Persuasion is bad.
Right.
But it didn't quite work for me on the level that like Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility does.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what did you think? Why do you like? You said this is your favorite one, right?
This one is my favorite one.
Okay.
I don't know. I really like Anne.
Mm-hmm.
I guess she's
Anne, I would say Anne is one of Austen's better protagonists.
Yeah. I liked Wentworth. It's what are the tropes? It's a second chance romance, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I really like. There's some mutual pining going on.
Yeah.
And
I also do like one thing I give this book credit for a lot. Anne is like 27 and unmarried.
Yeah.
And like, especially in romance books, like from older romance books, like it's always like this girl's like 16 or she's 17. She's like maybe, how old was Elizabeth? Like 19?
Something like that, yeah.
Like she's pretty young and she's still treated like she's older because she's not married yet.
Yeah.
So to have like a protagonist that's like
Anne Elliot's 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's kind of on the verge of being like
a spinster.
Unmarriable back then.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that.
Yeah. This was the last book that Jane Austen wrote before she died.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was published posthumously. And I don't know. I like the characters better. I like the story. I feel like the romance had more weight to it, I guess, than Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, you can see the romance between Anne and Wentworth. Whereas, like, Pride and Prejudice, it feels like it's mostly happening off screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This one felt more romantic as far as, like, the books go. Whereas, like, Pride and Prejudice felt more like a story about a family.
Yeah.
This felt like a story about the relationship between Anne and Wentworth. I think I had a note about that.
You also mentioned in last episode that the letter he writes her is one of your favorites.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't get a whole lot of, like, I love you letters that often, and I just really liked his, I guess. The other thing, I guess, is that the writing in this book feels differently. Compared to, like, the last one I read was probably Sense and Sensibility last year. Because this one just focuses on Anne, it focuses more on what she's thinking and her internal monologue, I guess, whereas Pride and Prejudice is a little more split.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I like all of the Jane Austen books that I read. This one's just at the top.
There's only one that I didn't like Mansfield Park very much. It's the only one I wasn't crazy about.
I don't know if I think that's the only one I haven't read.
Oh, okay.
Because was never super into the setup for that one.
Yeah. That one is like, I barely remember what happens. I just know that she tries to do a play with her cousins.
Yeah.
And then, I don't think the play even happens, but they were practicing for it for a while.
Yeah.
And when you said you want to do Persuasion, in my brain I got Persuasion and Mansfield Park mixed up. So it was like, oh, okay, we could do that one. It's all right. But I'm glad that we were doing this one and not
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to read that letter though?
Yeah, I'll read that letter.
Do you have
just find it here. Okay. Yeah. All right. I can listen no longer in silence. I must speak to you by such means as are within my reach. You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. Tell me not that I am too late, that such precious feelings are gone forever. I offer myself to you again with a heart even more your own than when you broke it 8.5 years ago. Dare not say that a man forgets sooner than woman, that his love has an earlier death. I have loved none but you. Unjust I may have been, weak and resentful I have been, but never inconstant. You alone have brought me to Bath. For you alone I think and plan. Have you not seen this? Can you fail to understand my wishes? I have not waited these 10 days. Could I have read your feelings, as I think you must have penetrated mine? I can hardly write. I am every instant hearing something which overpowers me. You sink your voice, but I can distinguish the tones of that voice when they would be lost on others. Too good, too excellent creature, you do us justice indeed. You do believe that there is true attachment and constancy among men. Believe it to be most fervent, most undeviating in F.W. I must go, uncertain of my fate, but I shall return hither, or follow your party as soon as possible. A look, a word, will be enough to decide whether I enter your father's house this evening or never. So, I got stumbled up there a bit. I'm not very good at reading long chunks of text, but...
Well, our listeners will definitely let you hear about it on Twitter.
Sure. I don't know. It just... I really liked it. I really like a lot of the writing in this book.
Yeah, it is good. And this is just an interesting little thing I found. I'm looking up some stuff about the book right now.
Right.
Austen wrote Persuasion as her health was failing, hurrying to finish it before her death.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says that like a lot of critics, I don't know if I picked up on this, but it says that a lot of critics feels that the narrative carries a sense of urgency or sentimentality that Austen, like you can feel that Austen is trying to get it done before she dies.
Right.
And it's kind of like reflecting on her own life.
Right.
And Austen died pretty young, didn't she?
She did, yeah. She was not super old.
34.
Wow.
Oh, wait, no. 42. Oh, okay, well, that's not...
Well, that's older than I thought she got, so...
Yeah.
Okay. Well...
I don't know why the little biography here has it... Oh, it's after her father's death was in... That's the 32 number I came up with.
Ah, alright.
Yeah. What else? Movies. Do you want to talk about the movies?
We can talk about the movies.
So I just saw the 2007 one.
With Rupert something as
and
Wentworth.
Sally Hawkins.
And Sally Hawkins as Anne. Yep.
Yeah, so Shape of Water and Random British Dude. It was okay. I find that they missed the humor completely. Right. Like, the father, who is like this extremely vapid and vain dude.
Played by Anthony Stewart Head.
And he is so serious.
Yeah.
And he's getting mad about like Anne not wanting to see what's her name? Dalrymple?
Lady Dalrymple. Yeah.
And like, but the way he plays it is just like he's very like, how dare you not want to see Lady Dalrymple? And I'm kind of like, it should be more clear that he's a ridiculous character, I feel like.
Right.
Because he is. He's like really like, he's obsessed with rank. He spent himself into the poorhouse maintaining a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, he's a ridiculous human being. I don't know why the movie would portray him as just like a regular
super
old...
serious dude.
Serious Brit.
Yeah. You should check out the 95 version. Because I remember that one being pretty good. I don't remember who's in it, except for the guy who plays Wentworth. Kieran Hines or something.
Okay.
He's a really good Wentworth. He's the best one. Speaking of Mr. Elliot, actually, I have a quote, like one of the very first lines in the book that I really liked, just kind of right at the beginning when he's going through his book.
Mm-hmm.
It reads, "Vanity was the beginning and the end of Sir Walter Elliot's character. Vanity of person and of situation."
Yeah.
And that was like a really great way to describe him.
Yeah, that is. That's really good.
And it says his two other children, this is talking about, it talks for like a page about Elizabeth, and then it says his two other children were of very inferior value. Mary had acquired a little artificial importance by becoming Mrs. Charlie Musgrove, but Anne, with an elegance of mind and sweetness of character, which must have placed her high in people's This is really hard to read. It's really
Jeez.
small.
Doing a book podcast and you can't even read books.
I cannot read this tiny text.
Boom, roasted.
With an elegance of mind and sweetness of character, which must have placed her high with any people of real understanding, was nobody with either father or sister. Her word had no weight, her convenience was always to give, for she was only Anne. The movie.
Oh, yeah. I think they simplified some of the stuff down, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with Mr. Elliot at the end. They made it just so much simpler than trying to explain that he was like, because I feel like he's no Wickham. Like Wickham did something very bad and like is a bad dude.
Yeah.
Mr. Elliot is like a half Wickham, where he's like, it's kind of bad. He's doing some shady stuff, but nothing like awful.
Yeah.
And so the movie just really simplifies it by like, oh yeah, he's already planning on cheating on you, like the second he gets married.
Right.
So I do enjoy that.
It's been a while since I've seen the movies, so they're kind of like meshed together in my head because I saw them both like at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Does that one has like the really long running sequence at the end though, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I remember
it does.
when Sally Hawkins kisses that dude, it feels like a very like it feels like a kiss that you might see in an adult film. That's what I will say. Like, it's very
passionate.
Sensual.
It's very
passionate.
passionate
Is a good
kiss.
word for it.
All right.
It's extremely passionate. It's sort of graphic. I felt dirty watching it. It was just a kiss.
Well, you know.
I
What
mean,
happens?
I guess I have seen Sally Hawkins make love to a fish man in
You
Shape
have-
of Water,
You
but
have seen her make love to a fish man, yeah.
let's see what else. One, I was looking up some like book club type questions for this book,
Right.
and one that I found really interesting is Lady Russell.
Yes.
Like, so Lady Russell's the one who persuades Anne not to marry Captain Wentworth.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yep.
And I guess the kind of question would be like, what do you think of Lady Russell? Is she the real villain of the story?
I wouldn't call her a villain. She's kind of a gray area though.
Yeah.
She's doing what she thinks is best, even if it's not actually what is the best.
Yeah.
She convinces Anne not to marry Wentworth because she thinks she's worth more than that. She really likes their cousin, Mr. Elliot.
Yeah.
Because she thinks that he's honest. But the second she finds out the truth, she's like, oh no, he sucks.
Yeah.
So she's not like a bad person. She's not doing anything maliciously. She's just misguided.
Yeah, I think there's a couple levels to read it on, because on the one hand, like, she does seem to be primarily motivated by money and station.
Right.
And to me, that's, like, bad. Like, that goes against my moral code. Like, I would rather, like, promote a marriage where it's, like, you're going to be, like, loving and taken care of, and not so much financially, but, like, emotionally supported and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, back then, when, like, a woman couldn't really earn a living on her own, like, it was very rare. Like, and plus too, like, we always forget, like, being poor back in the 1800s is, like, a million times different than being poor now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of poor and I have a car and a TV and running water.
Yeah.
But if you're poor back then, you're like, oh, I can afford a piece of cloth to wrap around me and that's it.
Yeah.
So, like, it is important to some degree to, like, have the financial stability, but it's, like, unromantic, I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then, yeah, another question, like, why do you think this is called Persuasion? Because other than the Lady Russell stuff, I don't know who gets persuaded. Like, why Persuasion plays such a big deal in the book.
That's a good question.
Because, like, Sense and Sensibility makes sense because the one sister is very, like, sensible. And the other one is very, like, the opposite of sensible. And then, and then Pride and Prejudice makes sense because, you can argue that Elizabeth is prejudice and Darcy is pride.
You could argue for both ways.
You could argue the other way as well. But yeah, the name makes sense. Emma makes sense because...
it's all about Emma.
It's about a character named Emma.
Yeah.
But this one, like Persuasion, like I always kind of wondered about that because the only real reference to Persuasion in the book is Lady Russell. And I feel like other than just her persuading Anne not to be with Wentworth at the very beginning,
right?
Other than that, I don't feel like she really does too much persuading throughout the book.
Yeah, I think part of it is, like, not listening to other people, trying to persuade her.
Yeah.
Getting past, I guess, that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
There's some other persuading, like there's Mr. Elliot and Mrs. Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have, like, a really solid answer to that question.
Yeah, it was just kind of something I remember thinking about when I read it the first time. This is kind of interesting, but I don't know. The question itself isn't really interesting, but just kind of the idea.
Yep.
It says that if you read through the book, the Crofts are portrayed as one of the only happily married couples in the entire novel. And then it just says what it is about their relationship that makes them happy. But I kind of like this idea of, like, Jane Austen at the end of her life is, like, there's only one happily married couple, and it's, like, everyone else is either miserable or one person's dead or something like that.
There's only... I guess there's, like, 3 married couples in the book. And then there's a bunch of, like...
A ton of widows.
Yeah, there's a ton of widows. There's Mrs. Smith, whose husband died, and they're broke.
Yeah.
Mr. Elliot's wife died. And their cousin Mr. Elliot's wife died.
And...
Benwick's wife.
Benwick. I was going to call him Bancroft.
Benwick's fiance is dead. Actually, yeah, there's a lot of widows in this.
Yeah. And then, what's his face? And then there's, like, Mary and her husband are kind of miserable.
Yeah, they're kind of miserable. I think that's mostly on Mary's part, though.
Oh, yeah, well, Mary's miserable.
Mary's
Charles
miserable.
just seems kind of oblivious.
Charles, like, tries to joke and play with her and stuff like that, and she always takes him, like, 100% at face value.
Yeah.
So he'll, like, say something funny, and she'll be like, oh, why would you say that? Yeah. I guess the Crofts are happily married. I didn't see any problems with the other married couple in Lyme, though. They seemed fine. Wentworth's friends there.
Yeah, I don't remember enough about them to say.
Well, I mean, they didn't seem like they're obviously in trouble, which I usually take to mean that they're doing fine. So.
Yeah. The thing that's really surprising is how many widows there are in this book.
Lady Russell's husband is dead, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Lady Dalrymple a widow?
I don't think it says, but she didn't come to the thing with a husband.
Yeah, she's either a widow or a spinster.
Yeah. Yeah, like every secondary character who isn't married is a widow of some kind. Widow, widower. I never thought about that. Huh.
So, okay, we're at like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
How would you rank Austen books? Like, what would be your official ranking? I'll pull out the list of all of her works.
Well, there's only 6 of them.
Yeah.
At the top would be Persuasion.
Okay.
And then you've got... Oh, it's a toss-up. I guess Sense and Sensibility. And then Pride and Prejudice. And then...
What the heck?
Emma... Northanger Abbey, Mansfield Park.
Have you read all of them?
No.
Which ones have you not read?
I have not read Mansfield Park.
Oh, okay.
And I think I started Mansfield Park and then I got bored.
Yeah.
And I did not read Northanger Abbey.
Oh, Northanger Abbey is fun.
Yeah, I just heard it was like really different from the rest of them.
It's like, imagine if it's like a Austen novel, but the girl is kind of obsessed with horror stories.
Yeah.
So she kind of like, in her head, she imagines everything to be a horror story.
Right.
But it's like, it's kind of fun. It's very literary. Like, it's got a lot of references to other literature. It's got a lot of like references to like books of the time. They argue a lot about like whether novels can be compared to like true literature.
Right.
And Austen like kind of inserts her own voice in a few spots, which is kind of fun. It's got a little meta elements to it, which I like.
Okay. I'll read it eventually.
Yeah.
But I definitely spent more time on... I only read Emma once. But I've read Persuasion, Sense and Sensibility, and Pride and Prejudice multiple times.
Yeah, actually, Emma's the only one I still haven't read.
Okay.
And it's because I downloaded an audiobook of it, and then every time I've tried to listen to the audiobook, I like don't make it very far, and then forget about it. For me, it goes Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Northanger Abbey, Persuasion, and then Mansfield Park at the bottom.
Okay.
And then I'm sure Emma's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you... Alright. So it's like near the bottom of your favorite Jane Austens.
Persuasion? Yeah,
Yeah.
but but it's like... It'd be like... Oh, I was going to make a film nerd reference. Like, my least favorite Quentin Tarantino movie is still one of the best movies I've seen, kind of thing. Like,
right.
I like Austen enough that I would still say it's like, even though it's one of my least favorite Austens,
it's still a good book.
It's still, yeah.
Yeah. I like the writing in this book better.
Yeah.
It's more poetic, I feel. I have like a quote here. We can probably end it on this if you want to.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah? Alright. So this is like after Wentworth and Anne have bumped into each other again. And she's kind of reflecting on what they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this like really standing out to me the first time I read it. Oop. There could have been no two hearts so open, no tastes so similar, no feelings so in unison, no countenances so beloved. Now they were strangers. Nay, they were worse than strangers, for they could never become acquainted. It was a perpetual estrangement. When he talked, she heard the same voice, and discerned the same mind. There was a very general ignorance of all naval matters through the party, and he was very much questioned. Wow, that's less fun. Cut that last bit out. It kept going. It didn't break properly.
Oh, okay.
You should cut that.
No, it's not going to get edited. This is a special speedrun episode. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. It's a good writing. That is me running out of energy to talk.
It's a good writing.
Okay.
You heard it here.
Where can people find us?
You can find us on Facebook, Literary AF.
Mm-hmm.
We're on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Literary AF.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Twitter, LiteraryAFPod, and our Gmail is literaryafpod@gmail.com.
Great. So tune in next week. What are you guys talking about?
We have not. Oh, we're probably going to finish off the Immortals After Dark books.
Okay.
Arlene is almost done, the final book, Wicked Abyss.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that one for sure.
Awesome.
After that, it's kind of still up in the air. We got a bunch of stuff on the go.
Cool. And then in like 3 weeks, I might be done David Copperfield by that point.
You've been working on that for a long time.
Oh, yeah. It's a great book, but it's turning into a bit of a chore. It's so long.
What are you going to read after that?
I have an idea that I want to talk to you about off mic.
Okay, secrets.
Yeah.
Secrets.
So, tune in next time and find out the big surprise.
Well, maybe not next time, but...
No, it'll be next week for sure. All right, bye.
Bye.